Got something a little bit different for you. Just imagine you're at a talk show this morning, and you're going to be the crowd on TV, all right? So we're going to kick it off here. And why don't you give a big welcome to our talk show host, Mr. Daniel Dotson.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the show this morning. Are y'all happy to be here? All right. We got a great show planned for you guys. We actually have the team that recently went down to Nicaragua here. How awesome is that, right? We're going to be interviewing them this morning, and we are also going to be taking your questions. We're going to put my phone number actually up here on the screen. You guys can text in your questions at any time, and I will get to them whenever I can. All right. Let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce Minnow Miller. Next, we have Gary and Jesse Jess. Next, we have John and Beth Jess. And finally, we have Rob, I'd say something, Burke. Rob Burke. All right, let's start out with something pretty simple for you guys. How many times have you guys been to Nicaragua? Who wants to start us off?
Everyone has been there a number of times, 2 times, 4 times, once for John and for Rob. I've been there 2 or 3 times. 1 time this year.
All right, so John and Rob, this is you guys' first time going. How was that? How different was their culture?
It's on.
Technical difficulties. One moment, please.
It was hugely different than what we're used to. You know, in the city where we stayed and stuff was a lot closer to an American culture. But once you get right outside the city to where the church and the school and all that stuff's built, I mean, it's dirt floors, dirt roads, metal siding that doesn't even touch the siding next to it, that sort of thing. So that's completely, totally different. But the in the city part was just, I mean, it obviously wasn't driving around here, but it's vastly different.
How would you rate the Best Western that you got to stay in?
It was pretty fantastic. I mean, I got to camp out there for a full day of views.
Can't really beat that, right?
Separate rooms would have been nice.
Are you saying someone snores?
And talks.
Yeah, you don't want a room with me because I keep you up all night. Talking or snoring, one or the other.
Sometimes both at the same time.
Wow.
Right, John, would you like to comment?
I guess the thing that really kind of just a wow factor for me was is people have nothing, and they just live day to day, and they're happy. You know, they're dealing with the conditions they've been dealt with, and they live in very poor conditions, but they take pride in the way they look. They're always clean, they have nice clothes on, and it's just real amazing that the way they do that. You know, us as Americans, we're thinking about what we're going to do next week or tomorrow or a year from now. Our goals. They look at what are we going to do tomorrow? How are we going to make it through tomorrow? And it's just really amazing how those people live.
start out with asking, why do each and every one of you do mission work? Why did you decide to go to Nicaragua? Mena, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
I fully believe that if we understand, at least I understand, I believe that I've been called. Everyone is called to a mission in some way or shape. It may not be going to Nicaragua, but everyone has a mission, everyone is called. And I believe that if you know that you're called and you're serving in your mission field, if you will, God has appointed you and He has also anointed you. So, being called to go to Nicaragua, I go with joy in my heart, meet these people, work with these people, play with these kids, and know that the anointing of the Holy Spirit is on me and God will protect His own. The world can't get the best of you. Sometimes it seems, even here, you go through your day-to-day life and you make, serving in your mission here or wherever you are called to be, the powers of the world will try to suck you in, if you will, like a wave. But God is still there, and if He chooses to keep you here, if your mission is not yet completed, He will protect you and save you, physically and spiritually, both. And I can testify to the spiritual and the physical aspect of that in a brand new way.
All right, Jesse, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, the why Nicaragua for us is because we sponsor a child there, so we actually get to go and meet her. Kendrick, you want to put her picture up there. And this was our second time to meet her, but why mission work? I used to be one of those people that would say, I'm not called to missions. I'm called to the local church. That's where my calling is. I'm not called to be a missionary or to go to another country or whatever. That's just not my thing, and that's way out of my comfort zone. And then Dad preached a message one Sunday about, I think it's out of Matthew, where it talks about going to Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem and all the different places. And he compared it to, one of the cities is your personal city, one is the surrounding cities, and then one is, at the end of the verse it says, and go into all the earth. And so I was like, okay, and it's like that Sunday, go just jumped off the page at me, and it was when they were starting to talk about going to Nicaragua, so I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that I do need to do, and it's not really an option for me anymore, so. But that's why, and why specifically Nicaragua was because of Aranya, who's now 14.
Yeah, our kids grow up quickly. I'm not sure where that came from, but yeah, just to go down and see her is just awesome. And she is like becoming a daughter to us. And now that we get to go see her, and it's only 5 hours away, it's pretty easy to do. So that's kind of why I went, and just to see all the kids and see them grow up and become teenagers.
Even the little guy that wants to get in your suitcase, is that right?
Yeah, I've seen him this year. Yeah.
He's a little taller.
He's a little taller. He wouldn't fit in my suitcase this year, so.
Well, I guess for me, why Nicaragua? This is my 4th year going, and 4 years ago, I had mentioned to somebody that I, wanted to do mission work and wanted to eventually go to Nicaragua. And I think it was actually that same year. We had, I guess a group was going down, and one of the ladies couldn't make it, and so I got approached by that person, and he said, hey, how about you go to Nicaragua? And, I was kind of shocked. I did not expect that to happen. I was thinking maybe, when I said that, I was thinking maybe in a couple of years, I would go. But actually, that was probably the best situation for me. I was just I got asked, did I want to go? I was a little nervous. I don't like stepping out. I live in this little box that I don't like to step out of. And yes, it was nerve-wracking, but it changed my life dramatically. And, I love it. And another reason, too, we get to see we have the privilege to see our sponsored child. And I have seen him for the past 4 years. Seen him since he was, I believe, 8 years old, and he's going to be 12. You know, and so to see him grow up, and the first year that I met him, and to see him this year, and the years in between, and how he's progressed, and it is so cool and such a privilege to see that. So that's one of the reasons why I choose Nicaragua.
Joel is the little guy in the blue shirt. He's not the big guy, but yes, that's the one that John and Beth are talking about.
That's his mother and sister. And we actually got to go to their home. So that was pretty cool. I guess the reason I went this year is I ran out of excuses not to go. Before there was always something, well, I had to, you know, a couple times I had trips planned for work and all that. But this year it was like, I really couldn't come up with an excuse not to go. So we went, and I'm glad I did. You know, these kids, they have an opportunity because they're sponsored. You know, it's $38 a month, and I don't know if you were going to ask the questions about Compassion or not, but I'm going to give you a little spiel about Compassion. They are a great organization. I think it was on Monday we actually took the kids to Tip Top Chicken, and there was 3 representatives from Compassion that went with us. And so we got the opportunity to sit there and talk to, you know, what do you guys do with our money? You know, I asked them that question. So where are you guys doing with our money? And then they told us, you know, they said these kids are getting, for one, they're getting 1 meal a day. Well, the most important thing is they are being exposed to the Word daily. They go to school, they pray in school. They're given the opportunity to, you know, study outside of school. Gary and Jesse's daughter is going to vocational, I think, beauty school. Yeah, she's 14, and so hopefully, you know, she'll be able to get a job, or maybe even have her own career, and totally change her life. But Compassion, they currently have, I think there's 40,000 kids in Nicaragua that are sponsored through Compassion. And the school and the church take care of these kids. If they miss school, they're out there finding out why those kids are not there. I made some cheat sheets. They also get like medical checkups to make sure that the kids are doing okay. These kids are, they're just not handed the money and say, okay, here you go. It's, they're funded, or the money is used to provide services for the kids and give them opportunities. So I'd say they saw between 80 and 90% of the money actually went to fund a service for that child. So I would encourage you to, if you don't already sponsor a child, to sponsor a child. It's $38. My cable bill is $72. You know, and I told Beth, I said maybe drop cable and sponsor 2 more kids. So I just encourage you to do that.
We need 4 packets here this morning if you're interested this morning.
Well, first, why mission trips for me? In 2006, I got laid off I was an electrician at the time, got laid off, and my dad asked me if I wanted to go on a mission trip with him and his church. And so I went, and I found God in Pascagoula, Mississippi in March of 2006. Before that, there was, you know, just excuses, or I would go to church sometimes just to make my wife happy, but it wasn't for me. It was because I couldn't come up with a better excuse than going. So since, you know, that was the first one, I've been on 4 since then. Everyone just brings me personally closer to God, makes my relationship with Him much stronger, much more, just proves to me the importance of it even more and more every year. There's times where I start to get a little grumpy after a while, and my wife's like, I think you need to go on a mission trip. Yeah, I think you're right. So to me, you know, that sort of long, you know, I guess long distance mission trips is very important to me. The reason why Nicaragua, I think, is because God told me, or God just put me there. The reason, I'm from Springfield, the reason I got included on this trip is that I used to work with Gary and Minna. Now, part of the way through last year, I quit that job, and the guy that owns Coach House happened to still invite me to the Christmas party. Now, why would you invite somebody to the Christmas party after they don't work for you anymore? On the way over there, my wife and I were talking about possibly sitting with all the other people from the Springfield area, because we wouldn't be, quite possibly couldn't be at, or wouldn't be at one of these again with them. And I convinced them that I wanted to sit with Gary and Minna, convinced her that I wanted to sit with them. You know, the conversation just happened to come up between Jesse and my wife Jessica about how going to Nicaragua. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. And, you know, Minna was nice enough to actually call me about a couple days later and ask if I was serious and really wanted to go. I mean, there was 1,000 things that could have happened to prevent that. I mean, any just one little hiccup could have put me not at the table, could have put me not at Arthur that night, could have done whatever. And then, you know, we left 6 weeks later. Well, you know, Rob, hurry up and come up with $1,400 in 6 weeks or whatever it is. And somehow I was able to scratch that together. Anyway, the guy I worked for gave me a little bit of money. My parents gave me a little bit of money. I didn't ask them for it; they just gave it to me. And I think all that is God's hand, God's calling, telling people, you know, yeah, you don't have to let him leave for work for a week, but you need to. And I didn't realize all that until the day after, Monday, the day after Ben almost drowned, and we were sitting in I was sick on that day, and me and him were laying around all afternoon, kind of talking about what happened and what didn't, and what his perspective was, and my perspective was, the whole situation. And I told him that after he got out of the water and was laying on the beach, at some point a lifeguard came up. And once the lifeguard got there, I realized that nothing I could do could really be any better. I mean, this guy's trained to do this. I'm trained to swing a hammer, so, you know, what am I going to do in trying to help him out? But so I went up to the truck, and I mean, I pray to God while driving my car. I pray to God while at work. I never, ever get on my hands and knees and just, like, put myself back out there. I don't know if it's a pride thing or what the deal is, but I don't do that. So I'm kneeling in the back of the truck. I have no idea even really what I'm saying at this point. Just, I figure he kind of knows what I'm trying to say. And nobody else stuck around there. Well, Craig, the truck moves. Now, if you can see this truck, this is not a truck that would be allowed to be on the roads of America. Everything you did on this truck squeaked as loud as you could possibly squeak. I mean, the brake sounded like the thing was about to explode. The door, I mean, you just touched the handle, the whole door creaks. So I'm on my hands and knees in the back of the truck, and the truck shakes, you know, side to side, and I kind of finish up what I'm mumbling or saying or whatever. And I'm thinking that, you know, kids were running back and forth getting water and whatever else to bring down to Minnow and Gary and John and me. And I just figured it was one of them. Well, I got up and I looked, and I see the door's open. Now, the door doesn't open without, you know, 900 decibels of noise while it's opening. And I'm like, okay. So I look in the cab, nobody's in the cab. I start looking around the truck, nobody's in the truck. Nobody's around the truck. Nobody's running back down to the beach. And I finally realized, at least the way I take this is, you know, I'm sitting there praying for God to be with us and be with Minnow and everybody else. And it's just like, doofus, he's always there. I mean, he just literally opened the door and said, hey, I'm here. I'm with you guys. Don't worry about it. And at that point, I was still kind of freaking out, but I figured at that point, you know, whatever I did was it was all in his hands, not in mine anymore. So for me, again, all 5 of the ones I've been on have increased my faith, bettered my relationship and all that stuff. But in this particular case, that was the real mind-blowing experience of this trip. So.
Thanks for sharing that, Rob. As Rob said, Rob and myself were just sharing our perspectives the following day after I was released from the hospital and got to hang out at the hotel room. Going over our perspectives, that really wasn't supposed to be on there. But that's the way I look when I'm in the emergency room in Leon, Nicaragua.
Still smiling.
Apparently it's not that bad.
I think right before I took this picture, he was pitching a fit about being in the hospital in the first place and not wanting to even consent to doing tests or anything. As soon as I get the camera off, then he could smile.
I'd actually been into the hospital several years ago to visit someone. It wasn't this hospital, it was a different one. And the experience of going in and visiting, I had come away from there vowing that I would rather be allowed to die than to be a patient in that hospital. And what I didn't know at that time was that there was better health care available, and that was where they were taking me, was to private health care, more of a first-class hospital, if you will. And I do have to admit it's better to be treated than to be allowed to die that way. So going to the hospital in Leon, Nicaragua isn't so bad after all. If you really have to, you would definitely do so. But as we were sharing perspectives the next afternoon, I think Rob and I both agreed that there was definitely a divine hand in bringing about the whole group being there, Rob being there, as thinking about what he shared, just the various different steps of him getting there. You can't deny that there was a divine hand in that, and God showing himself to all of us, but especially in such a bold statement, just such a miraculous way, showing himself to Rob that there's no denying, there's no question. And I think of that, if a little bit of a physical hardship is required for God to show himself in such a big way that so many people can be impacted from that testimony, I'm willing to endure a little bit of hardship. I don't really want another drowning experience or anything like that, but if that's what it takes, I believe the Apostle Paul probably, along with the other early apostles of the church, definitely experienced more hardships, challenges, and persecution than I ever have. So a little bit of a trial in this world is not so bad. We can do it with joy and knowing that God is glorified in that.
Well, we do have a question from the audience. This comes from Ken. He asks, how hungry for the truth for God are the Nicaraguan people? How on fire are they? Beth, can you answer that question for us?
It's pretty amazing because you expect to go down there and bless them, but actually, in all reality, that you are more blessed by them. When we go and visit the people in the project, and especially in the church, those people are on fire, for God, and it is just amazing how on fire actually, Pastor Dennis is, and his preaching. He is on fire. He loves to preach the word. He loves to talk about it, and those people, they're just amazing. The last night that we were there for the farewell service, Pastor Dennis is preaching, and he is just he preaches it, and people are clapping and saying amen. And it's pretty amazing. The people, of course, there are people that do need to hear the word, but they're getting it. They're getting it from Pastor Dennis, and
what is your perspective of the experience Tuesday evening at the pastor's mission outreach, if you will, with the kids? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? As far as, are they hungry to hear the word?
Yes, Pastor Dennis has started this mission not too far from 155, and I believe he said last year he had 2 kids show up, and this year there was, I think, close to 60 kids show up. But yeah, we took the health kits there, and we had extras, and we took them there to the mission, and passed them out. And it was just so neat to see everyone involved and see the kids, and it's pretty amazing.
So in answer to the, are they hungry to hear the word? Truthfully, there's, you look at someone like Pastor Dennis, and I'm sure he's not the only one. He's the one that we work with. But you look at someone like Pastor Dennis and the passion that the man has. He's 38 years old, 36 years old, 36. And the passion that the man has is just astounding. And he just drives, the Spirit of God is in him, and he just goes out and ministers to people. And these kids, you think of a year ago there were several, and now there's 60 that show up every week for hearing the word. So, it's just amazing. God is so good, and they want to hear more about it.
Well, right now we have some video playing on the screen of what the church is like down there. What else can you tell us about their living conditions? Take that question.
This is what the church looks like. They've painted it since the last pictures we've seen, and the floor is tiled, and it looks amazing. They did an excellent job. Living conditions wise, it's kind of one of those things you have to see for yourself. You see the pictures of cardboard houses and some of them are just cardboard and with black plastic over it, and tin roof that's rusted through. And during the rainy season that the floor in their house is mud, and it's.
Yet they walk out of that.
Yet they walk out of it completely clean. Yeah, it's like women. Can you imagine doing your laundry when you're living in mud like that? You're doing your laundry on an old concrete, scrub it. What do you call this thing? Washboard.
Washboard.
Yeah.
From 1950.
And it's clean.
Oh,
it gets clean.
Yes, right.
But seeing the pictures just doesn't do it justice to what imagining actually living that. And your bathroom is out in the middle of your backyard with maybe a black trash bag or maybe a shower curtain if you're lucky around it, and that's your bathroom and your shower. And but I never once heard nobody stinks. Obviously they do use a shower, but it's just totally different and beyond anything that you would ever see, in America. We don't generally think of ourselves as rich. We are loaded. It's amazing.
The difference in what you see from the city, and you go 5 miles from the city, it's just basically it's looking at something first world, and then you go to something third world 5 miles away from it. Am I right?
Yeah, there's no in between.
I made it into one building before I had to get back to the Hotel 6, but the one I went into was, what's that kid's name? Pastor Kenny's. Julio's. And by far away the nicest house in the whole neighborhood. It's actually made out of block instead of whatever junk they could find put together.
Literally, most of the homes are literally built out of, salvaged materials that they scavenge out of a landfill or somewhere, just stuff they can find and gather together. Typically, the ones where you see that are cardboard, plastic, ratty tin, that's salvaged stuff. But then you have the example of the one house. There's 1 or 2 houses there that you see that are actually nice, made out of block, and have a cement floor, right?
No,
I don't think it had a cement floor, but it was 8 by 12 maybe. And you walk in the door, you trip over a bed, and right next, if you trip left, you're actually on the kitchen, and then there's a TV in the corner. That's half the house, and the other half is going to have sheets. And then when I was talking, and I think we are pretty sure there's at least 6 people living in a house. And it's, I mean, the smallest bedroom we have in our house is roughly the same size as what 6 people are living in. Kitchen, living room, dining room, I mean, this is everything. It's just,
Most people's nurseries are 8 by 12, right?
at least, yes.
All right, well, we do have another question from the audience. Brittany would like to ask, did you guys see any other godly signs while you were there, like you had the drugstore open? Was there anything else like that?
Angel of Armies
Yeah.
just kept showing up. It was pretty obvious, yes.
Well, we had an eventful day. We hit a big rock on the road that could have totally just broke the axle in half. We drove a 4-door, 15-passenger pickup. And the back wheel, the 2 back wheels only had 4 lug nuts on it. And the one wheel came loose. It was like starting to thump real loud, so it stopped, and all 4 lug nuts were loose. And then Menno tried to drown him. That's all in one day. So, yeah, God was definitely protecting us.
Don't forget the part where I was at like an idiot going down the slide in the 3-foot end of the pool.
That was the same day, wasn't it?
All right, so you guys went down there for mission work, obviously. What are some of the things you guys do while you're down there? Gary, why don't you?
What did you do on Monday?
We went with the Passion group, took the kids to the Tip Top Chicken, and just spent the whole day with them. And yeah, we went to our kids' house, right?
Yeah, we did that, and we did some painting.
If you backed it up to Saturday, you arrived late on Friday evening, and Saturday we went to Leon, and Saturday afternoon, what did you do?
We painted,
The stuff for
yeah, the piping for the fence,
What was that fencing for? What was the fencing for?
for the playground fence on top of the concrete wall,
to keep the soccer balls.
and the kids in and the kids out. Also.
So that was Saturday, and then Sunday was the events that we just discussed, and then Monday was the day that you did the visit with all the compassion kids, and I'm thinking there were 12, right? 11 or 12 altogether.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, what did you do, Jesse?
Tuesday, we went to the preschool where we took them some school supplies, and we also took a piñata.
How many kids are here?
And okay, I think there were
60 or 80?
Well, they had told us to take ice cream for 55 kids. And I think there were several kids that were out. The flu was going around down there, too. So we had some extra ice cream, which the guys enjoyed. But anyway, here we're presenting the school supplies, like modeling clay that they play with, and tablets, crayons, that kind of thing. But then I think the highlight for them would probably have been the piñata. They all got their turn with that. And this is Pastor Dennis. They put it on a pulley and pull it up and down while the kids are trying to get it. Yeah.
Up, down.
Pastor Dennis was laughing so hard he could hardly even pull the rope anymore. But you can really see that kids are really his passion. And then Tuesday night was when we went to the mission outreach.
Are kids anybody else's passion?
Well, yeah.
Am I the only one, maybe?
No.
Along with Pastor Dennis, I'm just a big kid. No one else is a big kid?
Listen, if
I think
you
I've seen some video that might suggest someone else is kind of
But if you reach the children, you'll eventually reach their parents. And I think that's probably the goal with the mission outreach too. A lady just had the property and they put up, a couple of poles with a roof over the top, and that's where they meet. And then Wednesday was when we were painting the fence again. Can I share a story about the fence painting thing?
Please do.
Okay. So we were painting this fence, and they have these rickety ladders. So you're like holding on to them like a monkey while you're trying to paint. And Pastor Dennis thins your paint with paint thinner until it's so thin that while you're painting, I was covered in silver paint, like from head to toe. Well, then I went on the outside to paint on the outside. And I hear this noise up behind me. This kid comes up behind me.
I believe this picture is Beth and Jesse painting, is
Yeah,
that right?
holding on, yeah. Yeah, because after they weld it, you have to repaint over the weld marks. And so I'm on the outside of the fence there, and I hear this noise behind me, and I turn around, and there's this kid holding up this iguana that he killed. And it's like this big. Still has, it's still dripping. It was disgusting, and I'm like, good job!
Just don't get any closer, right?
Then he goes over, well, I was up the ladder, I wasn't coming down. Then he goes over to where his mom was cooking. Okay, so I'm thinking that was probably lunch. So pretty soon I hear another noise behind me. And another kid comes up holding his prize for the day, a snake. Oh my gosh. If y'all know me, you know I don't do well with this kind of thing. And I'm like,
No reptiles?
good job. And I'm not getting down off this ladder, and I have to move to the next post. I'm like, what am I going to do? So he goes over to where his mom is cooking on the outdoor grill, and I'm like, oh no. And while he's walking, he's slinging this thing. I'm like, oh, gross. But anyway, I mean, they were proud. They caught dinner for the day,
Yeah, it's a pretty big thing. I mean, it's very typical, common to see 10, 12, 13-year-old boys carrying a slingshot around. They are hunters. They literally go out, and if they can shoot, an iguana with a rock or a snake, if you will, I mean, they bring home supper. It goes in the soup.
Well, speaking of the food, I have had 2 questions come in already. One from Glenn and one from Pastor Kenny. To ask John about the chicken lunch. So please share.
We, as on Monday, we took the kids, everyone that had sent down gifts for their sponsored child. We took them to Tip Top Chicken and then took them for ice cream. And so we're sitting there, we all got our drinks, and I think it was Gabriel and Kenner. They were sitting across Gabriel is Kenny Treese's sponsored child, and then Kenny and Goldie's. And so we're sitting to get our drinks, and these little codgers are sitting over there just being kids, they're talking back and forth and giggling and laughing, having a good time. So we all get our food, and they just sit there. They wouldn't eat their food. And this picture of Tip Top Chicken. Anyway, so we finally sent one of the representatives from Compassion was sitting beside me, and so I was questioning why weren't they eating their food. And he said, take it home to sister. The 8-year-old kid probably hadn't eaten that day. He said they were take it home to their sister. It's amazing.
So these 2 little guys were sitting across the table, directly across the table from you and Beth, and they were giggling and whispering, sipping on their soda, and planning and conniving how they're going to take this box of chicken home to their little siblings.
Yeah.
And they were just happy and tickled that they could do that,
Yeah.
right?
So I said, no, we'll buy you 2 more for your sisters. So they gobbled the food down. And when we get down back to the project, Kenner rode with us. He lived quite a ways away from the school. And we dropped him off, and you should have seen him walk up to his house. He was bringing home the bacon, baby. I mean, I screamed his step, and he was hollering for his mom. I think that is the thing that really just stands out to me. It's 8-year-old kids, thinking of their little sisters first. I don't think an American kid would do that very often. It's gimme. These kids grow up so fast. I think I made the comment a couple times. These 8-year-olds are like our 14 and 15-year-old kids here. And like I said, they're survivors. And 55% of the Nicaragua population is under the age of 18. So educating these kids and getting to know the Lord is where it's at.
When you realized why these 2 little guys weren't eating their box chicken lunch, what did that do to you?
Cried like a baby.
Just
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, You guys have talked a lot about sponsoring children and how many of them are young and everything down there. The best way for us to help is through compassion then? Or is there any other ways that we can possibly help?
I would say compassion, after, like I said earlier, meeting with the compassion, I'm very comfortable, I'm very confident that they're going to do what's right, and they're going to make sure that these kids get what they need. They're not just giving them handouts. That's one nice thing I like about it. They're teaching these kids how to fish. They're just not giving them the fish. And that's what I think is so important. I think they talked about, and Haiti's been a poor country for years and years, and they have benefits, and we send them supplies and do this and that. But until we change their way of thinking and their culture, and then they will have success. So I think that the way the compassion is doing it, like I said, I'm very comfortable with their programs.
All right, well, we are running out of time.
In case anyone didn't know, Daniel, Compassion International is based here in the States, but the organization as a whole operates throughout the world. If I'm not mistaken, they're largely represented in Haiti as well. There's a lot of different countries. I don't know. They're throughout the world, so they really are a very phenomenal organization, and do a great job at what they do. Like John said, there's the biggest percentage of the funds, sponsorship funds, go directly towards the individual child that you sponsor.
All right, well, we are running out of time, and so I would just like to open it up for you guys. Is there any one last thing that you guys would like to share about your trip to Nicaragua?
I would encourage you guys to write your kids, send them pictures. They love it. Our sponsor Charles never met me before, but he recognized me as soon as I showed up, and he was, come up there and was right by me the whole time. He was so happy to see me. Never met me before, but he was sending pictures. So they love that, and they like to, that you interact with them. Another thing, we left their home, he said, he was speaking to a translator, obviously, but he was like, he's praying for us every day, and it's just so touching, that they're here, they have nothing, and they're praying for us and wanting to, communicate with us. So I encourage you it doesn't have to be anything special, just a short little letter, and they just enjoy that so much.
Well, and about the letter writing,
Anybody want to say anything about the active volcano? Sulfur and rocks flying around?
Yeah, that's in front of a volcano, actually. That's why we had to wear hard hats. I don't know whose idea it was to do YMCA.
You're welcome.
That was you. But yeah, with the writing your children, it's so easy to do it now. You can do it online. If you go to Compassion, if you go to the Compassion website and sign into your account, you can write right there. You can also upload your pictures right from there, and it goes right to Compassion. They say it's faster doing it that way than if you use snail mail. But just $38 a month can make a huge difference in the life of a child. I mean, it's the difference between, for sometimes it's the difference between eating or not that day. And like I said, we have 4 packets here this morning, and we're planning on participating in Compassion Sunday, which is in April. It's a nationwide sponsorship day, and I'm gonna try and do my best to get more packets from Project 155 here for that day. But yeah, it's about being the hands and feet of Jesus, and it doesn't. $38 a month is not that much for us here, and you can change, a child's future just by doing that. And yeah.
Beth, did you have anything more that you wanted to share?
I like going to Nicaragua because we have this green carpet in the house, and then whenever we come home, Jesse's like, "Oh, this carpet's not so bad after all." No, I mean, seriously.
It gives you perspective.
It gives you a perspective of things.
You appreciate things that you took for granted.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I still don't like my green carpet.
yeah, we are spoiled rock Americans. And you almost feel kind of bad coming home to all your stuff and everything. And I don't know.
If anybody has an interest in going, hasn't thought about it, please talk to one of us if you want to. Talk to me. Anybody that knows me, I'm more of a quiet person, and poor Minnow had to deal with me on the first year. It wasn't so pretty. And if I can get through the trip, get through the food, and come back, maybe not 100% normal, but you know, within a couple of weeks, you're back to feeling yourself. It's worth it. Please talk to one of us. And it's, you know, I didn't know when I went the first year. I didn't think I'd be going back another 3 years. So, like I said before, Nicaragua's in my blood, and I love it. Love the people. It's just amazing. So.
To have a piece of your heart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, for me, I get to go see our Wisconsin Trail, too. So that makes it even, you know, better that I get to go see him and see him grow up.
Can I share another thing? Sorry. Another highlight was when we got to spend the afternoon just with the pastor's kids and Rob there. Just dancing and acting silly, and I learned a few moves.
Lord,
No, just to hang out with the pastor's kids, and they're crazy. So that was another highlight.
Rob, do you have anything on the pastor's kids that you would like to share? Any thoughts? I know you'd expressed, you know, your thoughts on just the overwhelmingness of.
Well, they're just such wonderful kids, and we're there trying to, you know, help all these kids that are poor. Well, by our standards, Pastor Dennis is pretty poor. There, he's, you know, probably
Very middle class, top middle
upper
class.
middle class, maybe. And you know, his youngest girl gets a lot of attention just because she's a sweet girl that's always around and gets right in everybody's face, and everybody's fine with that. But his older daughter and his son, who keeps popping up on here from time to time, are just two of the best. All three of them are three of the best kids you'll ever see, and they just kind of get overshadowed a lot. I mean, we're there helping other kids. We're playing with little sister. We would say Joshua, but his name's Hostwall. It's like the nicest, best kid you'll ever meet in your life. And, you know, he has to go help cook, and then he helps bring all of them, help bring the food, and then clean it all up afterwards. And we're not allowed to like pick up a dirty plate and take it to the kitchen. I mean, that would be rude for them. So it's just like, you know, here the kids don't eat with us. I don't know where they eat or if they even eat at all, but they don't get to sit there and eat with us. They just, after everything's done, they might come out and try to hang out with us a little bit. But, I mean, they're just, the whole family's as good as the kids, in my opinion. I mean, if you meet Pastor Dennis and you're not moved to do something, then you just weren't paying attention that day, because he knocked your socks off pretty quick.
Well, in closing, I would like to just say that, you know, thanks to all of you for going along and being willing to serve there. I mean, I go to Nicaragua, like I said, because I know that God has called me there. He has appointed and anointed. You know, He's called me to go there, so He will protect me there. And I don't take any of that for granted. You know, it's, if I need to, I can try about it, you know. There were several times that, you know, even if I didn't want to, I had to anyway, try. Just, you know, it's, some of those challenges that you experience are if you will, heart-wrenching, or they really move you. And I want to give a special thanks. We have the special guests from Springfield here today, Rob and his family, Jesse and his 3 kids, Carmen, Miles, and Judah are here with us today. And I want to give a special thank you to the kids and Jesse for sending Rob with us. There's no way we would have ever known that, there was such a large divine order in what was to come. There's no way we would have known that ahead of time. But thank you so very much for being willing to share your husband and your daddy with us. That's very special to me. And just know that I pray God's biggest blessings on you for that. And also a big thank you to Kendra. If you see this picture that's up here right now, I don't believe that this would have been possible had it not been for Kendra being willing to step up and do what she did to orchestrate this, to bring this about. There's a lot that goes on to make this possible. A lot of coordinating with Compassion. Kendra, it's hands up to her. The fact that you were able to send gifts and for us to be able to spend the time with your kids this way. So thank you very much, Kendra. Can't thank you enough for that. I know that you have your blessings coming for that in a much bigger way.
Well, I'm afraid we are out of time. I want to apologize to anyone that didn't get their questions answered. I know I had a couple in here. But feel free to come talk to any of these guys. They'll be here after the show, so they'll be willing to talk to you. If we could, I'd just like to close in a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for giving these people to us with such a heart to serve, and thank you for protecting them while they were down there doing their work, Lord. And I just want to thank you for allowing them to come share their experiences with us. And I pray that the others here today will be inspired and led to serve and to spread the kingdom of God, and that they will serve you in whatever way that you have planned for them, Lord, whether it is mission work or whether it is something here in the community. Wherever it may be, Lord, just fill their hearts and allow them to better serve you. And I just ask this all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. All right, thank you all for coming.